This is the head of the Longshoremen Association. This is him. And when you see this, you're just like, we're getting shaken down by gangsters.
They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now.
Yeah, a lot of people are hating the longshoremen because, holy shit, you guys literally go like this. And most trades, I think, are pretty impressive. Iron workers, electricians, plumbers, boilermakers, pipe fitters, welders, whatever out there, you name it, cool. The longshoremen literally because they're not actually unloading things. They take a container and go boop with a crane, and they go and they go boop onto a truck. That's what they do. They can basically kneecap the entire country with their ability to do stuff. And they went on strike. And it was going to cripple the entire fucking country. This was happening up and down the East Coast and the Gulf Coast by the International Longshoremen Association and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, representing the ocean carriers and port operators, and they reached an agreement on wages. The two sides agreed to a 62% wage increase over 6 years. The union wanted 77%. And a day before the strike began, the companies had offered 50% in wages and raises. But what does that mean? How much is that? 62% over 6 years. That's a 10% raise every year. You're really not encouraging me to buy, fucking machines and run those on the docks. Because literally you just go boop. It's not like you're in there unloading the boxes. You're doing what I did at FedEx on a macro scale. You're doing it on the big scale. I loaded boxes in trucks. You're just loading in a single box on a truck. And yes, they've been suffering from inflation, and I get that. But when you're trying to sit there and when you tell people oh, it's hard times out here, it's yeah, it's tough for everybody. It's tough for everyone. Hard times all around, man. But it's just the idea you're going to break the back of the entire economy. Guess what's going to happen? Everybody like me is going to go, you guys let's invest in robots because robots don't strike. You know why they folded so quickly? Because people are like, you guys are fucking assholes. How much do you want? How much are you making? What exactly is it you fucking do for a living? That's why. Because part of this is, wow, they saw the public turning against them. And when you see the longshoreman, their president, he lives in a 10-acre house with making $900,000 a year. People are like, yeah, I don't feel bad for these people. And when he comes out shaken down like he's Frank Sabaka on The Wire, he's like, I'll show you guys, we'll break your back. People don't want their back broken, man. They probably save themselves a lot of when people oh my God, our jobs are automated. Then you know what people are going to say? I feel sorry for you. But if this had gone on for long enough that they really damaged the economy, our jobs are being automated. Oh, well. Remember, guys, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Don't be a hog. Now, let's get back to why is this strike important? Well, guys, this strike is governed by the National Labor Relations Act. Because the longshoremen are a labor union, they are governed by the NLRA, which is an actual law that was passed. It was known as the Wagner Act in 1935. Now, under the Wagner Act, they have to follow certain rules when they do strikes. Strikes have to be certified. They have to follow rules and operate all together. But interestingly enough, it forces the ports to operate in a certain way. They can hire scabs at times. And they can do things to have things working, but they can't... there's limits to what they could do to dissuade the strike. There's limits on how they negotiate. There's rules actually for both sides when it comes to negotiations. Then you have unfair labor practices. You have unofficial labor activities, ULPs and ULAs that are going on both sides. And both sides are, it's very interesting how labor law works out in the United States. But that's what the National Labor Relations Act is. It sets up Title VII. Chapter 7 of the National Labor Relations Act, it allows for unions to basically do what they want, how they organize, how employers can't stop them from organizing. And that's the neat thing. You may have heard about that. And this is one of the big things with labor law. You own a business and the labor union comes in, people come in tomorrow and say, hey, we're going to form a union. You can't pull a Vince McMahon and go, you're fired. That's illegal. And they'll get an injunction and the federal government will stop you from doing that. Yes. Now, you could shutter your doors and say, I am not going to let you communist cocksuckers in and shutter the doors before I let you organize. Sure, you could do that, but you really got to go out of business. So what happens? You have to negotiate with them in good faith. And guess who decides what's good faith? The National Labor Relations Board. And if you don't, if you start screwing with things, guess what gets involved? A federal court gets involved. If you're working in, a bike shop somewhere and you want to unionize, guess what? You're governed under federal law. You might have state laws too. But it only protects private sector unions. It doesn't protect public sector unions. That's all controlled locally. Pow Angel says the Wagner Act is unconstitutional as it forces a contract. It does. It forces you to engage with people. You no longer have freedom to run your business as you wish because your employees decide they wish to organize. At that point, you have to deal with them in a way that prevents them from, getting fired. And why is that an issue? Well, remember, this came about in 1935. What was going on in 1935? Well, FDR was running around with his commie stuff. So there you go.